Mom, how did you and Dad meet?
We met at a party, honey.
No, I want to know the details, the deets, the 411. Spill the tea, Ma.
Okay, get into bed and I'll tell you all about it. A long, long time ago, 1979 to be exact, I was part of a group of girls that was associated with a temple. We were called B'nai B'rith. And the girls we had a group, and there were two groups in our town. You either were a part of one or the other, and it was very like a sorority type of group. And then there were the boys, and they were AZT. And every town in our area had a different group. So one day, all the groups got together at a temple, and it was an open social, and my friends went, and so did I. And everything was normal. We were 14 years old. We traveled in little packs. If one girl wanted to go to the bathroom, all the girls went to the bathroom. If one girl was dancing, all the girls were dancing. The boys were a little bit more on their own, but that's the way the girls did it. And I was kind of shy back then, being young. And in walked your dad. Oh my God. He was gorgeous. I don't remember what he was wearing at the time, because that really wasn't the time I met him. But I just took one look at him. I dropped my girls. Where he went, I went. I was like a stealth FBI agent. Everybody he went up to, right behind him, I went up to. If he walked in one room, I walked in one room. There were hundreds of people there, so he didn't really notice me. And I kind of was stealthy, and I didn't want him to because I was shy. But that night, I found out by talking to people that he had talked to that his name was Howie. And that's probably about all I found out about him, because he was just making chit-chat with, different people, and I really didn't go up to too many people I didn't know to do this. And that party ended, and he went home, and I just remembered, oh my God, he was the most gorgeous guy I had ever seen in my life. That party was in November. In December, my parents took me to a hotel in upstate New York, the Raleigh Hotel. And there I met a young boy. His name was Michael. And he was very cute. He did really well in school. He was very well mannered. My parents met his parents up there, so they became friends. And when we got home, Michael asked me to be his girlfriend. Being 14 years old, not really caring about the quality of dates or how I felt, I said of course, because I was going to have that clout and have a boyfriend. So I started to date Michael. The problem is I liked Michael. Michael was okay, but he didn't do anything really for me. He was just Michael. We dated for about 2 months, and one day he decided to come over to my house. Except his parents told him not to come because they couldn't come and get him. But that wasn't going to stop Michael. Michael took the bus. And everything went well for the day, except the bus never came to take him home. He got snagged, and his parents had to come and get him. They were not happy. So Michael got grounded for a couple of weeks, which meant I wasn't going to be able to see him. And you would have thought that I would have been upset, but I really wasn't. So I called my friends up, and I was like, what are you doing? And they said, well, there was going to be a social that night. My group with another one of the AZT groups. Now, these type of socials were much smaller. It was only my group and only the boys group. It wasn't all the groups together, and it was being held at a rabbi's house. First, I didn't want to go. my friend had to pull me out of the house. Actually, she came over and she picked out what I was going to wear and dragged me there. And when I got there, it was like any other party. I sat down on a couch. It was in my rabbi's house, so nobody was getting into trouble. And there was about maybe 20 girls and 20 boys, and the rabbi was there, so really nobody was going to get into trouble. The boys seemed to have all gotten there at the same time and came piling in, and immediately these two boys sat down next to me, one on one side and one on the other, and they started talking to me. And my mind was in a million other places. I was actually bored by these two boys sitting next to me, each one of them trying to pick me up. I thought they were kind of nerdy and they weren't my type. And that's when it happened. In walked your father. Immediately, the lights became dim. I'm sure they didn't really dim. My hearing, I could not hear anymore what those boys were saying. And it was like womp womp, womp womp, womp womp. And all I could do was look at your dad. I remember my heart was beating, my hands were shaking, my palms were sweaty. Something was going to happen that night. So, I don't even think I said goodbye to the boys. I got up and I walked into another room to look for my friend Jill. By this time, my friend Jill was being hit on by Daddy's friend, Uncle Robbie. You know Uncle Robbie. So I saw a familiar face, a good friend of mine, one of my besties, and I walked up to her, and she introduced me to your Uncle Rob. And I started chit-chatting with the two of them for just a minute or two, and that's when your dad walked up to us. Well, you know Uncle Rob and Daddy are best friends. So there we were, the four of us talking in a group. And I don't even know what we were talking about. It just went on and on. I was shaking, nervous. All I kept doing was fidgeting, looking up, looking coy. Your dad got the idea. And he said to me, you look a little bit cold. And I was like, yeah, a little bit. So we sat down on the floor near the radiator together while Rob and Jill chatted on the other side of the room. And my knees were still shaking, my hands were still shaking, and he put his hand on my knee. And he saw that I didn't jump back. And so he went in for the kill. He put his arm on my arm. And that was it. Love had begun. It was really quick. It felt like I knew him an eternity, and I maybe knew him for an hour. And of course he asked me the inevitable question, do you have a boyfriend? And I wasn't going to start anything without telling him the truth. I said yes. And then he looked at me and he said, you're going to be breaking up with him? And I looked at your dad and I said yes. But that was before cell phones and text messages, so I had to wait the next day to break up with him. So technically, I guess I was cheating on my boyfriend at the time, but I guess it really doesn't matter. That night, your dad, oh my God, he promised me the world. And you can't believe how quick it is. He gave me his high school ring, which was 10-karat gold, to wear on a chain. We exchanged phone numbers. Now, he gave me that ring to wear on a chain for two reasons. One, because he wanted me to be his girlfriend, but two, I would have to see him again to give it back if I decided not to. So it was kind of like insurance. By the end of the evening, my mind was racing, and I was completely, absolutely upside down in love. And so was your dad. Now, I could say for 100% certainty that even though I was so young at the time, I knew. And I think so did your dad, that there wasn't going to be anybody else. because when your dad ended his senior year, he asked me to the prom. And on the night of the prom, he gave me a ring. And he said, this is a promise ring, not an engagement ring, a promise ring, that someday I'm going to put a diamond on your finger. I was all of 15 years old and he was 17 when that happened. And I still have that promise ring. But 7 years later, we went through college together. We spent every weekend together. Our parents became the best of friends. On the same day we met, 7 years later, your dad took me out to dinner to a very nice restaurant in New York City, got down on a knee, and asked me to be his wife. And there was absolutely no doubt in my mind I chose the right man. I knew it back when I was 14 years old, chasing him around that first party. And I knew the night of our wedding that I made the right decision for my life. And now, it's almost 30 years later, and I still say, your dad is the only person in the world for me. Not everybody gets to have this. Not everybody knows. Sometimes you have to test the waters before you jump in. But when you know, your instinct knows, from the minute you see somebody, there is no doubt Cupid struck you in the heart. And that, my dear sweet boy, is how I met your dad.
Mom, am I ever gonna meet somebody and fall in love like you and Daddy did?
Puff, honey, when the time is right for you to take a mate, I promise the right girl will come right to your door. Good night, sweetie. You know I love you.
I love you too, Mom. Good night. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that like and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell.